Hi! Welcome to Mama Bird's Kitchen, Young Men's Service League of Cedar Park. I am so excited to have you in my kitchen today, and we're going to learn to make a couple different dishes that hopefully you will be able to duplicate when you go out to school, or hey, make dinner for your mom. She's been cooking for you your whole life. So the first thing we're going to make today is messy meatball buns or sandwiches. We're going to put them on like a little bun, and the ingredients we need for that are a pound of ground beef, a quarter cup of pesto, and I'll talk about pesto in a minute, and a can of tomatoes and some mozzarella cheese. And if you want to really jazz it up, you can crush up some garlic or use garlic powder. Feel free to add or omit things according to your liking. Okay, so here we have our ground beef, and I'm going to go ahead and pour our pesto, and we're going to mix it in. If you have gloves, little disposable gloves, I recommend using them. I don't have any on hand in the moment, so I'm going to use my bare hands. And then we've got just a little bit of salt and pepper, okay? And then I'm also adding a little bit of garlic powder because in my eyes, you can never have too much garlic. So once that's all in there, and you can use any kind of bowl you want, we're just gonna mix that all in. As pesto is normally a combination of basil, garlic, Parmesan cheese, olive oil, salt, and pepper. You can always substitute different nuts. I prefer pine nuts, but they're getting kind of expensive. And so you can feel free to substitute other nuts in there. And you can always buy a jar of pesto. Anyway, so there's that. And then we're gonna go ahead and divide them into 4 meatballs, or you can make 8 small meatballs, so you have like 2 on each sandwich. They'll cook faster that way, so if you're in a hurry, that's kind of a good idea. So you just kind of break them up into even-sized balls so they all cook at the same rate. And so we're gonna roll them up and put them in the pan in a second. So next we're gonna take a non-stick skillet and put it over a nice medium-high heat and pour in about a tablespoon of olive oil. See how that olive oil is starting to spread around the pan? That means it's nice and hot, and we can start adding in our meatballs. Okay, so we're gonna brown the meatballs on all the sides. These have been cooking for a couple minutes on one side. See that? How nice and perfectly brown and got a nice crust on them? That is exactly what we're looking for. And then once they're all turned over, we're gonna cook them for another 3 minutes or so on the other side. And then when they're ready, we're gonna add the sauce. So, important tip, I recommend this highly. When your meatballs are cooking and you're just standing there twiddling your thumbs, do your dishes. This way when you're done, you don't have a sink full of dishes. Now that our meatballs are nice and brown, we're gonna add our tomatoes. We had a 14-ounce can of whole tomatoes. Now, if you want to use whole tomatoes, make sure you wash your hands and squish them up with your fingers if you want, or you can use a fork or a spoon, but it's really more satisfying to use your fingers. Then you take your crushed up tomatoes and you pour them into your meatballs, like so. And then also, just to make it saucy, you're just gonna add a little bit of water. And now we're just gonna let them cook off for a few minutes, and I'll show you what they look like. All right, so what we're gonna do is once we put the tomatoes in, we're gonna let them come to a boil. So you can see it's kind of bubbly, which is awesome. And then I'm gonna space them about 2 apart so you can have like 2 per bun. And then we're gonna top each one with a slice of mozzarella. Also, I want to tell you guys, if you don't feel like using the canned tomatoes like that, you can feel free to use a jar of sauce. That's totally fine. Prego makes a nice thick sauce. Once we get our cheese on there, just turn it to low and put a lid on it, and we're just gonna let that sit for a few minutes while the cheese melts. So your meatballs are done. They're beautiful. The cheese is perfectly melted. It's fantastic. We're gonna shut the heat off and just let them rest on the back burner. Now this is completely optional, but lovely. If you want to take your buns and toast them in the dry skillet with a little bit of butter, that will just take them over the top. Okay, so our buns are nice and golden and warm. Again, this is just an option. And then we're gonna go ahead and take our lovely cheesy saucy meatballs and put them on top of the bun. And don't worry if you mess up the stove. Remember, we're gonna clean up later. So you put your meatballs on like that, and then a little extra sauce. And then you're ready to eat. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you learned something new. If you liked this recipe, check out my blog at mamabirdskitchen.com, and happy cooking.